Right now, on to the point. The Sacramento City School District faces a $200 million deficit, forcing difficult decisions.
My heart really hurts because I know the impact it's going to have.
Twin Rivers teachers on strike for a second day. Schools are open, but some students are staying home. Tonight, reaction from parents. And love it or hate it, daylight savings time is here. California's efforts to change the change. Then we hit the back roads.
They wanted a genuine psychiatric hospital.
An inside look at a psychiatric hospital turned Hollywood backdrop. Hundreds of pink slips are going out today to employees of the Sacramento City Unified School District. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alex Bell. And this comes as school board members juggle ways to solve a projected deficit next school year of some $200 million. ABC 10's Becca Habegger has been following the district's ongoing budget woes and joins us now in studio with the latest. Becca.
Yeah, Alex, last month we reported the Sac City Unified School Board voted to close more than 400 positions for the coming school year. At yesterday's board meeting, they voted on about 400 more, bringing the total number of positions that could be eliminated to about 800. Now, that does not mean all of those will result in layoffs, but it does mean hundreds of employees are worried tonight.
We are really out of time in terms of having options to have a better plan.
At Thursday night's meeting of the Sacramento City Unified School District Board of Trustees, members received the latest update on the current year's budget and projections for next year.
Tonight, we will share where our fiscal picture is currently.
Earlier in 2026, the district was facing insolvency and a possible state takeover. District leaders say they've managed to avoid that and anticipate ending the fiscal year in June with $13 million cash on hand.
I do see some light, though, so let me say that. I see some light.
Next school year, however, is a different story, with an anticipated budget deficit in the ballpark of $200 million.
It's really heartbreaking to say we've got to consider restructuring, which means a lot more people need layoff notices so that we have flexibility.
Last month, the board voted to close more than 400 positions for this coming school year, about a quarter of which are currently vacant. At this week's meeting, board members voted to close some 400 more, including practically everybody at the district office, the Cerna Center, kicking off a restructuring plan there.
It's really scary for me to say we're going to pink slip every single person in the Cerna Center, although I understand what we are striving to work towards. I'm still not sure what recommendations to put forth right now, though.
By law, the district has until March 15th each year to give employees a preliminary notice that they could be laid off. Then they have about 2 months until May 15th to decide and issue final layoff notices. Until then, the board and district staff will explore options to avoid as many layoffs as possible, including furloughs and temporary pay cuts.
We just kind of wanted to give you a menu of what those items would look like.
Employees weighed in.
I know personally I would rather take a pay cut or take furlough days than to lose my job. And I would bet that the majority of the people in this room would say the same thing. So,
while final decisions aren't yet made, district leaders emphasize that even the best case scenario will still be painful to avoid insolvency next year.
And get this district to a point where we can actually restructure and reassess our needs so that we can actually build a district that runs beyond just a multi-year projection every 3 years. So we keep having these conversations.
Jobs up for elimination run the gamut, from teachers and health aides to security officers and food service employees. Keep in mind, the numbers we've seen so far don't factor in things like retirements or resignations. The school board is set to meet again on March 19th to continue this difficult conversation and these tough decisions. Alex?
All right, Becca, thank you for that update. Let's take you out to Twin Rivers Unified School District, where teachers were on the picket line for a second day. Some parents decided to either pick up their kids early or simply not send them to class in the first place. At Highlands High School all day, we saw parents picking up students early. One student told her parent that the majority of the day was spent inside of an auditorium. Twin Rivers Unified told parents that it brought in substitutes, but that the day may still look and feel a little bit different. In a letter to parents Thursday night, the district said that Thursday was a very successful day across campuses, reporting a 71.97% attendance rate and an 88.4% staffing rate. The district said it is fully prepared to continue providing instruction, enrichment activities, and a supportive environment. And there was one parent that we caught up with that actually took his student to the strike instead of school.
They're spending $600 a day on glorified daycare, and my kid isn't getting any instruction. Why would I send them to that? I can teach them better at home. My wife can do that better at home, and I think that the lessons they learn out here are far better than the lessons that they're going to get in the classroom at the moment.
The district says that a teacher strike is not considered an excused absence and that they expect students to stay on campus for the full day of school. The man accused of multiple shootings on Sacramento freeways was in court earlier today. 33-year-old Raymond Calderon is facing several felony charges. It was a very quick hearing lasting just about 3 minutes. This is video from inside the court. We could only record from the neck down. Calderon walked into court wearing an orange jumpsuit. As you can see there, a judge appointed him a public defender who immediately asked to push that hearing back. Calderon is accused of firing at least one vehicle on Highway 160 near downtown Sacramento on Wednesday morning. The shootings forced parts of Highway 160 and Interstate 5 to temporarily shut down while investigators searched for evidence. CHP says 2 firearms were recovered after Calderon's arrest, and those weapons are now being tested to see if they were used in the shootings. Investigators say that they still do not know what the motive was. All right, still a lot of news to get to. Coming up in a little bit after the break, it is time to spring forward. Daylight saving time is this Sunday, why California and many other states are still stuck in the yearly clock change debate. And then a big move for middle-class homeownership in California, the new bond initiative that could dramatically lower down payments.
And we are all in on spring right now with temperatures in the mid to upper 70s this weekend, plus that extra hour of sunlight coming in the evenings. I've got a full look at the forecast after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight. The conflict around Iran has raised prices for both oil and gasoline to its highest since 2023. In an effort to get oil tankers and other ships in the Persian Gulf moving, the Trump administration says it will provide $20 billion in reinsurance to shippers in the area. Since the U.S. and Israel struck Iran last weekend, the flow of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz has virtually come to a stop. A new report shows the U.S. lost 92,000 jobs last month. Many analysts find that surprising after expecting an increase in the tens of thousands. The report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics also shows a small downward revision of January's job numbers and a slight gain in unemployment.
He would be intent that we stay the course and carry on the struggle for justice.
And former presidents Clinton, Obama, and Biden attended the Reverend Jesse Jackson's memorial service today. Former Vice President Kamala Harris and multiple Grammy winners also attended the Chicago event. Jackson's son says the service was open to people of all political backgrounds. He says his father's life covers a broad spectrum of what it is to... Well, here's your reminder that daylight saving time starts this Sunday at 2 a.m. That means that you'll need to set your clocks ahead by 1 hour. It also means that it will still be light outside at this time. Now, the annual change aims to make better use of daylight and save energy. Most states follow this clock change. Arizona and Hawaii are the only ones that don't observe daylight saving time. In the past 7 years, 19 states passed legislation or resolutions supporting year-round daylight saving time. As of last year, at least 35 states considered or are still considering legislation related to daylight saving time. Now, here in California, voters approved a proposition in 2018 allowing the state legislature to pass legislation that would put California on permanent daylight saving time. Nothing came of that legislation, obviously. And then in 2024, 2 proposals were introduced to observe standard time year-round. Both failed. 2 new measures aim to eliminate daylight saving time in the state. They were introduced in the Senate. One of them failed in February, but keep in mind, Congress needs to act before states can make any changes. I am not going to comment about this story because I know from viewer emails that this is a very hot topic.
It is. But the question, I don't think there's any debate about shifting the clocks. I think we're all done with that. The question is, do we stay on daylight time or standard time? Because there's pros and cons to both. You know, one gives us a later sunsets, one gives us much earlier sunrises. So it's what time of day do you want the light in? Now, British Columbia, though, here on the West Coast, up in Canada, well, the provincial government said, we're done with this. We're moving the clocks forward one more time, and they're never doing it again.
Yes, they ended the debate. Well, let's talk about the sunrise and sunset. What are we looking at with this change?
Yeah, well, the benefit is, of course, we do lose that hour of sleep, but the benefit is we get a lot more sun in the evening. So on Saturday, tomorrow, the sun sets at 6:05 p.m., but on Sunday. After we move those clocks forward an hour, 7:06 p.m. becomes the new sunset time, and that'll be our first 7 o'clock sunset since late September. So, very spring-like temperatures, and then with that extra hour of sunlight in the evenings, it feels like spring across Northern California, even though officially it is not yet spring. 66 right now in Sacramento, 61 in Stockton, 64 in Modesto, 59 Placerville, 30s in the high country. We continue to see some wind out of the north, about 15 miles per hour right now. Wind gusts close to 20 miles an hour. We'll continue to see 20 to 25 mile per hour wind gusts even as we go into the overnight. 66 as we look towards Sacramento. That's 4 degrees warmer than this time yesterday. And like we talked about, we still have those sustained winds over 15 miles per hour in the capital city. Clear skies through the evening and overnight thanks to those winds, which again continue into Saturday morning. Temperatures to start Saturday morning in those mid-40s. Look at this though, we're going to be in those mid to upper 70s across the valley on Saturday afternoon. We're still going to see some wind, but for the most part it is going to be focused on the western side of the Sacramento Valley and these downsloping easterly winds in the high country. So this is lunchtime on Saturday. Again, that focus of the wind is really a little bit further west than we've seen the last couple of days, but it'll still be breezy across the valley. After this system moves out, which is what's causing the wind, high pressure builds in, and that means temperatures are climbing. A lot of days in the mid to upper 70s. Next weekend, we could even be in the low 80s. Alex.
Oh, I'm ready for it, Brendan. Thank you so much. All right, right after the break, the next time you get called for jury duty, you may be showing up to a new high-rise building. Yes, the new courthouse is close to opening. A look at the timeline when we come back. But a little bit later, of course, we hit the back roads because it's Friday. John Bartel taking us inside a Hollywood set for a famous movie that was also known as a working psychiatric hospital. Well, new tonight, Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley says that he is changing his party and will be seeking re-election as no party preference. Now, the change means his name would appear on the ballot without a party affiliation. Kiley cites gerrymandering and rising partisanship for his reasons for the change, adding that the political divide in Washington made him frustrated and disgusted. Kiley currently represents Congressional District 3, which includes Placer and Nevada counties. He is seeking re-election in District 6, which is heavily crowded with Democrats in that race, something that we're continuing to follow very closely. All right, a proposal to make homeownership more accessible and affordable for the middle class is likely to be on the November 2026 ballot. Advocates argue when it comes to state support, the middle class is often left out. ABC 10 State Matters political reporter Jenny Huh has the details for us tonight.
New houses, only brand new houses, increased supply, affordability.
Those are the two goals of the California Middle Class Homeownership and Family Home Construction Act of 2026, a bond initiative by former Assembly Speaker and Senate Majority Leader Bob Hertzberg. It would help any middle-class Californian, not just first-time home buyers who have been in California for at least 1 year and plan to live in the home, by lowering the down payment while incentivizing the building of new middle-class homes.
There is a strong and appropriate interest among affordable housing communities. There's a whole group of people that believe in renters. I wanted a clean, pure help the middle class.
The middle class, often known as the missing middle when it comes to housing, are unable to qualify for affordable housing programs, but also unable to buy homes at market rate.
The middle class, the working Californian who can afford to maintain that home but cannot afford or is struggling to get that down payment.
The California Association of Realtors is helping to fund the initiative, saying California is in a home ownership crisis. The standard down payment in California is around 20%. The bond would instead allow for a 3% down payment and a loan on the remaining 17%.
3% down versus 20% down of whatever that number is going to be dramatically less. That's the biggest barrier. How do you save that kind of money?
So who pays for that loan? Not taxpayers. It's a $25 billion revenue bond, meaning the project would eventually fund itself as home buyers repay their loans. The state would first sell about $25 billion in bonds to the market and perhaps private investors to generate that loan fund.
So the revenue bonds does depend on a robust bond market to buy that. And I think you'll have that in California.
And with the requirement, this applies only to new housing. The hope is on supply and demand, that with more home buyers, a potential 150,000 homes could be built, including condominiums, factory or modular housing, even commercial buildings transformed into homes.
If you can bring down the cost of housing construction, or if you can find an incentive like a bond, you can start to move more people into housing ownership.
Jenny Ha, ABC 10.
Ann Hertzberg says that his initiative has collected over 900,000 signatures of support. The measure needs just over 546,000 valid signatures to be on the November 2026 ballot in front of voters. All right, the new Sacramento Superior Courthouse is set to fully transition court operations by the end of April. The new 18-story courthouse is at 500 G Street in the rail yards. The move will come in phases over 5 consecutive weekends over the next 2 months. Public amenities inside the courthouse include civil self-help services and a jury assembly room that can hold up to 500 prospective jurors, and food services. Courtrooms will have upgraded digital evidence displays and multiple camera views to protect juror privacy. Still ahead, John Bartel is taking us inside a former psychiatric institution that also served as the set for a popular 1970s film. Well, you never know what you'll see on the back roads. Tonight, John Bartel is taking us to Salem, Oregon to visit a historic psychiatric facility that was used as the backdrop for a 1975 film.
Jesus, I mean, you guys do nothing but complain about how you can't stand it in this place here, and then you haven't got the guts just to walk out? I mean, what do you think you are, for Christ's sake, crazy or something?
When filmmakers of the Academy Award-winning movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest began filming, they chose not to make the movie on a Hollywood set, but inside a real mental health hospital.
Staff and patients worked on the film.
Medication time. Medication time.
For 3 months in 1975, Jack Nicholson, Christopher Lloyd, Danny DeVito, and many others acted inside the psychiatric ward of the Oregon State Hospital in Salem.
So this is a lobotomy table.
Remind me, what is a lobotomy again?
So a lobotomy is when they essentially cut your brain in half. They cut the connections between the two halves of the brain.
Christina Ballard is the director of the Mental Health Museum, located inside the 1883 hospital, which houses historic medical artifacts and props from the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest movie.
This is what Chief Bromden picked up and threw out the window when he escaped them.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is considered by many as one of the greatest movies of its time. It follows the rebellious prison inmate Randall McMurphy as he fakes insanity to serve time inside a mental institution.
The chief voted. Now, will you please turn the television set on?
Mr. McMurphy.
It's here that a power struggle ensues between the patient's individual freedom and the oppressive authority instilled by Nurse Ratched, played by Louise Fletcher.
And they wanted a genuine psychiatric hospital. And when they came to Dr. Brooks, who was the superintendent at the time, he thought that it would help in his goal of humanizing the patients.
All right. So we go.
Dr. Dean Brooks was a pioneering leader of Oregon's public mental health system who championed humane and compassionate care, even though the hospital was overcrowded at the time.
He thought that this would help people see that people with mental health issues are not animals.
No! I won't go! I don't want to go! I won't go!
The movie does highlight past mistreatment of the mentally ill, but Christina says the film also sometimes exaggerates, like the scene when Jack Nicholson gets electric shock therapy.
Here we go.
The way that it's shown in the film and the way it's been portrayed in other media is not actually what happened. But it's a very effective treatment, and it works for up 60 to 70% of people who undergo it.
The movie wasn't perfect, but its heartwarming and complex characters gave people insight and helped destigmatize mental illness.
From the Museum of Mental Health in Salem, Oregon, film site of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
As always, thank you so much for watching and for always inviting us into your home. If you have something that you think the team and I should be looking into, you can always reach out to us at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night and a safe weekend. I'll see you on Monday.